welcome to today's edition of The Connection. I'm Isabella Suarez, your host for the Connection podcast. Today, Thursday, April 30th, we are here with Glen Lawn collegiate teacher Brett Bonkowski, and he has been helping out students with their work during the pandemic. Hello, Brett. Thank you for joining
Hi,
us.
Isabella. Glad to be here.
Okay, so let's start. What was your initial reaction when you found out that school was going to be canceled?
Well, if I had to sum it up in one word, I think I would say surprise, and I think a lot of people would say that. In my experience in this city as a student and a teacher, I don't remember ever seeing the schools cancel even for a day for even anything like cold weather, snowstorm, anything like that. So to see it close for months for a global health crisis was definitely something that was very surprising.
Hmm. Yes, I imagine for sure. And how do you feel that the lack of person-to-person contact has challenged you as a teacher when you're giving assignments?
Well, a lot about teaching I find is connected to making connections with the students. So, a lot of the time on a day-to-day basis, when you're in the classroom every day, there's a chance to connect with students about things, aside from academics and find some more about their personal interests. And, a lot of good things stem from those interactions. And, without having those or having a lot of opportunities to do that, it can be a little difficult to see that your students are engaged. And another thing would just be a lack of immediate feedback. There's a lot of feedback you can get from just seeing somebody's face or seeing somebody's reaction when you're teaching or talking to them. So these digital formats that we're using, they don't always lend themselves to allowing for those things to take place. So I'd say those have been some of the biggest challenges.
Hmm. Yes, for sure. And what are you trying to do to keep in touch with your students?
Well, I'm doing video conference calls on Microsoft Teams once or twice a week on a regular schedule. So that's just me either face to face or at least my face out there if they're not using their video, or in my OneNote, kind of just live streaming a lesson writing into there. So that's been the biggest source of communication. Again, email is still a big one. Just if we're not in sync, we can still communicate back and forth via email. And if I'm not hearing from them, then I'll just go to a phone call just to call and kind of see how they're doing, just to make contact in general, because that's really the first step for any of this.
Hmm. Is it hard for teachers to keep up with the online learning platforms?
Well, it probably depends on what teachers were doing prior to this, because different teachers would have been using different online platforms to begin with. The whole teaching profession can kind of always be seen as something where you're always trying to keep up with, the amount of work or some new thing that you can use in your classroom. Um, but I think that just the fact that we have to rely on it, it is providing some challenges with the technology that everyone is using. For myself, I was already using OneNote. I was already using some digital math assignments technology. Like there's a website, Khan Academy, where you can assign. So I already had some of that stuff set up with my classroom, which made it a little bit easier. But personally, I had never used Teams before. So there's been
Mhm.
a bit of a learning curve for me there. And I've been uploading videos that I'm making now or I'm uploading them onto YouTube, and then I'm pasting them into my OneNote, which is something that's kind of new as well. So there's definitely been some learning on the tech side it's been a bit of a challenge to keep up with.
Mhm. Now, how are the grade 12s handling their studies, and what is your part helping them graduate?
The grade 12s, you know what? I think the grade 12s are a grade of students that are, for the most parts, they're pretty well equipped to handle this. Again, they're not all the most mature, but there are a lot of really mature grade 12 students, especially in this second semester. Some of these students might be going to post-secondary in the coming years, and they might actually be taking online courses. So I think some of them understand, what needs to happen on their end, the independence to be able to kind of take ownership of the work that they need to do. So on my end, I'm just trying to provide them with good opportunities, something that's not going to be too different than what they would get in the class, but also maybe giving them a little bit of a taste of what's a distance learning, online course might look like if they do that down the road. And taking some of my experience from that, for me taking those courses in the past, and kind of trying to infuse that.
Hmm. How are you preparing for the exams of the end of the year, and will some of them be canceled?
Yeah, so exams are an interesting one. I believe the province had said that for grade 12 provincial exams, those will be canceled. Like they're not going to be writing those. And I think on a
Hmm.
class to class basis for the ones that wouldn't have a provincial exam, that's something that's I haven't put that much thought or effort into at this point. The reason being, with all the uncertainty, the planning of courses has been kind of a week to week, maybe month to month thing. So uh, I'm more focused on how I'm doing assessments right now and kind of building on those ideas. And then when we get closer to June, that'll probably be a conversation among some of us teachers or maybe some of the administration at the school to try to figure out what is it going to look like for some sort of final assessment.
Hmm. And is there any advice that you would like to give to students during this hard time?
I think a big thing would be to find a routine on a daily basis for those weekdays, because um, school, when you're going to the building every day, is a very structured routine that you find yourself in. And working from home, it can be very easy to slip out of that routine and get distracted by other things, get behind. There's all sorts of different challenges with that. So I think being able to maintain a consistent routine, telling yourself that this day between these times, I'm going to have to work on this subject, and then I'm going to put that away and work on this subject. I think that'd be a good piece of advice. And the other one is just to try your best to keep up and, learn the stuff that your teachers are working to send out to you, because when we do get to the other side of this, and maybe you're back in your classes in September, you're going to be happy that you put in some work during these months, so that you're not finding yourself in a spot where you might have to go back and fill some gaps in your learning.
Mhm. Well, thank you for participating in our show, Brett.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Well, that finishes our show for today. I would like to thank our guest, Brett Bukowski, from Glen Lawn Collegiate, for being in our show. And also, we hope you enjoyed our show. I'm your host, Isabella Soares, for the Connection podcast, your way of keeping connected with us. Make sure to follow us in social media at LRSD TV on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and on Twitter at LRSD_TV. So I hope you enjoyed the show and have a great day. Remember, stay safe and stay connected.